Hello and welcome to today's lesson where we're looking at cognitive restructuring. Now, cognitive restructuring is a technique that can help you identify and change negative thoughts that are holding you back. Now, imagine this scenario. Imagine as a child you performed poorly in a math exam. You showed your results to your parents and they suggested that maybe you're just not suited to math. Now, the next time you take a math exam, you have this niggling doubt in your head that perhaps you're no good at math. And sure enough, you don't perform well in that test either. And upon seeing your results this time, your parents say you're just not a math person. Now, over time, as the years roll by, you start to believe that you're no good at math. And because you now know you're no good at it, you start to avoid it if at all possible. Now, later in your adult life, you know that having good math skills can help your career, but you still avoid improving those skills. Why might that be? Well, it's because you think, I'll never be good at math, so what's the point? Or some thoughts similar to that. Now, Henry Ford said, whether you believe you can or you can't, you're usually right. And if you have a fundamental belief that you can't do something, then you're very unlikely to be able to do it. And if this belief is holding you back, if it's stopping you from achieving all you want in life, then it's obviously a belief that isn't serving you. And so by using cognitive restructuring, it's possible to change these negative beliefs, and you do that by changing your thoughts. So cognitive restructuring is a technique that teaches you to identify and reframe those thoughts that are holding you back. So instead of simply accepting negative thoughts as fact, such as I'll never be good at math, cognitive restructuring helps you start to assess them rationally. When you accurately reflect on these negative thoughts, sometimes called automatic negative thoughts, you can discover that they are irrational and not a true reflection of reality, and that can help you move to better, more realistic thoughts. So let's take a look at how this works. Now, imagine you're on a diet and you're trying to lose weight. You watch what you eat all week long, only consuming diet-friendly foods. Now, at the end of the week, you weigh yourself, and to your horror, you discover that you're half a pound heavier than last week. Now, at this point, you could have one of two thoughts. You could have a functional thought or a dysfunctional thought. Each type of thought will have a different consequence for you. So a functional thought would be something like, this is just a temporary setback. I'll get there eventually if I just stick with it. Whereas a dysfunctional thought would be something like, what's the point? I'll never lose weight. I may as well give up. Now, if you experience a functional thought, then you're likely not to dwell on your temporary setback and you're going to get on with your day and your diet. But conversely, if you experience a dysfunctional thought, then you're likely to be upset. You might feel bad. You might even binge eat as you can't see the point in dieting. Now, the purpose of cognitive restructuring is to intercept these negative dysfunctional thoughts and replace them with more realistic thoughts so you can achieve your goals. So the next time you catch yourself thinking, what's the point in dieting or something similar, you try and catch the thought immediately and you tell yourself, actually, there's lots of point in dieting. This is a temporary setback and it's not going to stop me achieving my objective. And in doing this, you stop your negative thoughts in their tracks and you keep on the path towards your goal of losing weight. Now, events will happen in our lives and it's how we respond to them that really matters. So let's take a look at the steps involved in actually doing cognitive restructuring. Now, just like building any habit, to use cognitive restructuring effectively requires practice. Your negative beliefs can be really deeply ingrained, and it's going to take consistent practice and patience over time to replace them with more empowering beliefs. So it's also important to undertake cognitive restructuring with an open mind. Once you start to notice the thoughts that pop into your head, you might be surprised by how many of them are actually negative. Now, negative thoughts can often leave us feeling overwhelmed, anxious, and emotional. And if you find yourself feeling this way, then give yourself some time to calm down and relax before you begin to step through these steps. That will enable you to examine your thoughts more realistically. So the first step is you have to begin by noticing your automatic thoughts. Automatic thoughts happen spontaneously, almost as though they appear from nowhere. Now, examples of automatic thoughts include, I'm stupid, I'm just not worth it, I'm an idiot, I don't deserve to be successful, and I'm no good. And when these thoughts come to you, it's best to get them out of your mind and write them down on some paper. Once you start to catch your negative thoughts as they happen, you might be surprised or even shocked by how many you have. But don't be alarmed, this is perfectly normal. The second step is to ask, was there a trigger? If your negative thought was caused by a specific situation, then write the situation down. Knowing what situations trigger your negative thoughts can help you better prepare to handle similar situations in the future. The third step is to ask, how do I feel? And we do this on a scale of 1 to 10. A score of 1 means the negative thought is having no impact on us, whereas a score of 10 means we're overcome with anxiety and barely able to function. So, for example, if you're the type of person who's more comfortable spending time by themselves, you might feel threatened when asked to participate at work in a large group. Now, during that meeting, if you're asked for your opinion, that might trigger the automatic negative thought, I'm probably going to get this wrong. And you may worry that you could make a mistake in front of the group. And that's going to leave you feeling some anxiety. So your job in this step is to rate the intensity of that feeling or that anxiety. So for example, you may score the feeling 7 out of 10. The fourth step is to realistically analyze the evidence. So suppose that your boss gives you some feedback and that triggered the negative thought, I'm stupid. Our aim in this step really is to objectively see if that is actually true, and we are actually stupid 100% of the time. So we look at evidence to support the fact. So we may say, supporting the fact is the fact my boss gave me some negative feedback today. But we also look to find contradicting evidence to our negative thought. So we might find, that my boss has given me lots of positive feedback recently, that maybe they wouldn't have employed me if they thought I was stupid. I wouldn't have passed my professional exams if I was really 100% stupid. And I received praise from one of my colleagues only yesterday. So as you can see, through inquiry, we're starting to build up a picture of whether the negative thought is actually true all of the time. And in this case, it clearly isn't true all of the time. In fact, there are more occasions when it isn't true, and only one occasion we can find where it might be true. So hopefully, you might be beginning to realize that you had believed an irrational thought that was not true. And with this increased awareness, you can now take the impactful next step by choosing to reframe this negative thought. So in this step 5, we come up with an alternative thought to replace our automatic negative thought. And that's going to help us develop a more realistic way of seeing the situation. So looking at our example again, we might choose to replace the negative thought, I'm stupid, with a more realistic thought, such as, my boss is giving me some constructive feedback. I should use this as an opportunity to improve. So going forward, every time you find the thought "I'm stupid" popping into your head after a conversation with your boss, you can replace it immediately with the more realistic thought. And the final step is to assess how you feel now after thinking about your more realistic thought. And again, we do this on a scale of 1 to 10. And what you should notice is that the more realistic thought makes you feel far less anxious than your automatic negative thought did. Now, one thing to note is that this is going to take time. When we decide to exercise our bodies and we work out, it usually doesn't take long before we can see some positive changes. But this process of cognitive restructuring can take a long time. So the best way to approach it, I think, is to just commit to doing it over a period of time, maybe several months, 6 months, or even a year. And in practice, it's best to print out or create yourself a sheet that looks something like this and go through the 6 steps we've just been through every time you catch an automatic negative thought popping into your head. So, in summary, cognitive restructuring is a technique for changing negative or irrational thought patterns. And using the technique allows you to put your thoughts on trial and take control of them, keeping the ones that serve you and replacing the ones that don't. This is important for personal development as it can keep you on track towards your goals. Now, training your mind to use cognitive restructuring allows you to experience the world and your relationships in a more balanced and rational way over time, and that can only make us happier and more successful. So that's it for this lesson. I really hope you enjoyed it, and I look forward to speaking to you again soon.